everybody's upset about it. Like, oh my God, this is right in our neighborhood. How could something like this happen?
Pontiac resident Emma Gross lives a few streets over from the home where the kids were found. The Oakland County Sheriff's Office says the house was covered in piles of trash as high as 4 feet in some rooms. There was even mold and human feces throughout the house.
It's pretty heartbreaking that the kids would have to live under those conditions.
Sheriff Michael Bouchard tells me a 15-year-old boy and his two sisters, ages 12 and 13, hadn't been outside the home in years and were surviving off of weekly drop-offs of prepared food.
It kind of reminds me of the commercials you see where animals are living in very deplorable conditions. Well, kind of take that times 10. And that's what the kids were living in for years.
The boy told deputies that his mother abandoned them back in either 2020 or 2021. Deputies were recently called because the landlord of the home asked for them to do a welfare check.
The landlord said he hadn't seen her for some time. And I think, as our detectives mentioned, that hadn't paid her rent going back to October.
The kid's mother was arrested on Friday, and Bouchard says she had been living somewhere else in Pontiac. The kids hadn't been in school since they were abandoned.
Well, that's going to be a very long process to figure this all out. Not just how they are, both mentally and physically, but how did this ever happen to have these kids fall through the cracks on so many levels with relatives, the community, and with schools?
Have you ever seen anything like this before?
I've seen, child neglect and other situations where they're living in bad places, but not to this level and not for this extended duration.
So me personally, I've never seen anything that crazy. That is just ridiculous. And I had to look into this story myself, and I know they did a follow-up with the police department, which I'm going to play the clip here shortly. But just to fill you guys in, because I haven't watched that whole clip, and I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm going to play a few minutes of it. But just so you know, the 15-year-old is a boy, 13 and 12-year-old are both girls. So this woman has been gone since, the detectives believe, since summer of 2020. So these kids have not been out of the house since then. They've not been in school. So you think that's what, 4, 5 years now? Well, coming up on 5 years, and haven't been to school. He was 10. You look at the next to the oldest was 8, then 7. And she's living in the same town. They haven't seen it. I think the son keeps in contact. She sends hot food over, and she's still paying the rent. I'm assuming this is some type of Section 8 because the rent must not be that high. So she's not even doing a welfare check. These kids don't even know how to take care of themselves. They don't know anything other than what's on the TV. Interactions. You don't know what could be going on in there. Sleeping on a mattress. What does that feel like? Just imagine being a kid going through that. So the next thing I wanted to get around to, guys, was where's the father? That's what you're going to ask, right? And according to the report that I was reading, the father was in prison at that time, but when he got out, he tried to get visitation, which I guess there was an agreement, which is strange. I'm like, if she abandoned him in 2020, she was still managing to go to court or making court appearances or whatever for his visitation. And this is where it gets strange. He won visitation, as a father should, but she refused to let him see the kids. So I guess he just gave up, as some men would. Just imagine not seeing your kids for that long. Now, I always say I could never understand it, me personally, how some people can just do without seeing their kids, and you got that much hate in your heart to not hand them over to the father, and you just like, screw it. At this point, bro, like, that's crazy. And I think the boy said he's only been outside twice because they are apparently afraid to go outside, but he went outside one time because he just wanted to see what the grass felt like. Isn't that crazy? And the girls haven't been out. So you don't know if these younger girls started their cycle, no nothing. It's just him in there. So the girls haven't even seen the mom. So that's crazy. These kids, they just left to live on their own. And I think in the report it said also that they would sometimes only get a loaf of bread that would last them a week with that one loaf of bread. Bruh. Let's get on to the next clip, guys. Let's go.
I'll kind of give you a little bit of an update on where we are, and more specifically where the kids are, how they're doing, and the kinds of things we're asking for on behalf of the kids. So one of the first questions is that we've heard from a lot of people is, where was the dad during this? So to back up a little bit, the father had been incarcerated for a period of time and had no contact with the kids. When he came out, he sought the opportunity to reunite with the kids and actually filed some legal papers in court to try to get visitation and those kinds of things. A consent agreement was arrived at in 2022, but the mother still would not allow him to see the kids. So that's what we've learned so far, at least preliminarily. We're going to go back and double check all these timelines and that kind of information. So he, in essence, had lost contact with the kids. And that's where that stood. So we've had questions about that. The other questions that we've had was, who were the other people potentially dropping food at the house other than the mother? So far, again, the investigation is pretty layered and complex given that it's going over years. But it appears that those are companies like an Instacart or a DoorDash, things like that. So, so far, none of the people that were coming to the house had any awareness that there were kids inside or the situation in which they were delivering to. Obviously, the question was somebody dropping food off knowing there's kids there? No information at this point leads us to believe that. The kids were forensically interviewed, with our partners at Care House. They've already been seen once at McLaren. We intend to have them at a much more detailed, both physical and mental health kind of checkup, if you will. That will happen hopefully this week. When our detectives saw them at their interview at Care House, they were already making amazing progress, having had some tender love, having had some supportive care, having been put in new clothing and some basic hygiene. The one detective said that the little girl was talking quite a bit. So that's super exciting to see that happening. And as it relates to being in the house, the only one of the three that ever came out was the young boy, and he came out twice. Once because he wanted to feel the grass, which by itself is heartbreaking, and a second time to check the mail. So you wouldn't do this to an animal, let alone your child. So, just to hear that he came out to touch the grass is just crushing, soul crushing.
So I'm going to stop it right there. That video is rather lengthy. It's about almost 14 minutes. But I haven't seen that. And everything I told you guys was from the report that I read. So I guess he repeated a lot of the stuff that I did say in terms of that. So I apologize for that. But hey, you guys are still around. As he said, even a dog, who leaves a dog in the house and just continues to drop off food and just let the dog just sit up in there? I just wonder sometime, and the fact that you don't want anyone else taking care, you don't want the father taking care of the kid is crazy. What do you think should happen to her, guys? Obviously, she's going to lose custody at this point. So I already know, give the father the kids, man. As far as her being able to see the kids, that's definitely supervised visitation. Why should she want? I'm pretty sure she doesn't want visitation at this point. Why would she? Let me know what you guys think though. Comment below. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Much blessings and abundance. Stick around for the next videos. It's going to pop up on the screen below. That's where I'm going to see you guys at. It's your favorite everything. This is Wisdom. I'm the best. Let's run it up to 1 million. Quit playing with me. Peace.